Hey, welcome to NinjaBill and Razyel Kayne live, and we are here today to talk about the Wheel of Time books, not the series itself, but the books. And to start out, I'd like to read everyone a little something uh, um, that sets up. It's a setup for how every book goes, and it starts out like this: the Wheel of Time turns, and the ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth. Even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the third age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings in the turning of the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. From that wind, born below the ever cloud capped peaks that gave the mountains their name, the wind blew east, out across the sand hills, once the shore of a great ocean before the breaking of the world. Down it flailed into the two rivers, into the tangled forest called the Westwood. And this is how Book One, The Eye of the World, starts out. And um, before we begin, let's first do some introductions. Again, I am Ninja Bill. Razyel Kayne also joined me here. Tell everybody
Hello.
about yourself.
I'm Razyel Kayne. I'm 43. I collect Transformers and I do voice actor spotlight.
Nice. And of course, I am Ninja Bill. Where can they find you?
YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. I have those three things going for me right now. And I post on T-Formers.
Nice. I always forget. I have a T-Formers account, and I always forget that I have one there. I know I have
Oh,
one. I always
se-
forget.
75% of my views are driven from T-Formers.
Yeah.
And
See, I really need to get back to posting there. Transaren 38, welcome. I should welcome everyone as well, real quick here.
yep.
But the Wheel of Time books is an important book for me because it was one of the first of its genre that I read. So I'd had a lot of recommendations from a lot of people, and but this one seemed to be the general consensus that everyone of my friends at the time enjoyed reading, and so I started reading it and was hooked in the first book. Absolutely
Yeah.
hooked in the first book.
You cannot read this book and not be hooked. I wasn't new to the genre at the time because I did read a lot of Dungeons and Dragon novels in the 90s. And then my friend was telling me about this series, The Wheel of Time, but I never actually read it until probably late 2000s, mid 2000s. One of my friends started reading those, and then he just lent me the book, and that was it. I bought every single one of them, and it's the best read I've ever had.
Yeah, in case people would like to know, there are 14 books in the series. Um, 11 of them written by Robert Jordan himself, fantastic author, now passed, and it was
Yeah,
picked up by Brandon Brandon
Brandon
Sanderson.
Sanderson. Yep,
I keep wanting to say Sorensen, but it's Sanderson. The last
yep.
three books was picked up by him. Mimo224, welcome. Thank
Hey,
you for joining us. Also, I just watched your latest review this morning, man. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Um, and of course, Transaren 38, once again, welcome. Thanks for joining us. But yes,
yep.
this book series for me, um, and the characters are, at first, I was a little put off by the how he portrays it's how he portrays some characters because they're always, they're kind of emo in a way. They are.
Yeah,
They're kind of
yeah.
emo. Of course, they're teenagers. In the books anyway, they're teenagers. They're, unlike the
And
television series where
like
they're,
you said, in the books, because just to let people know exactly what happened, why we decided to do this stream is because Ninja Bill posted on Facebook saying, "How come I haven't heard about this series? I'm excited about it." And I commented, "I'm not gonna watch this crap because the first thing they did is cast a 6 foot woman, which has, she's good, she's a good actress and everything. They cast a 6 foot woman for a 4'2" character.
four
I
foot
was like,
four. And
yeah,
Moraine, yeah, she's
yeah,
only 4 foot
exactly.
4.
And I'm like, okay, so right there, you don't understand this character. Therefore, you don't understand this series. And then I started reading a couple things here and there. So then after that, I never watched it. You watched 3 episodes of it, and then you
Yeah,
got back to me saying, "You're right. This is crap."
yeah,
So
yeah.
if anybody likes the series,
Great.
I'm happy for you. I will not be watching it at all. I've read a couple things where some characters have different origins and other characters just don't show up. I'm done. It did. Robert Jordan did not want, and he fought hard to have this never put on TV. And the
Yeah,
moment he died, everybody jumped on it, and I guess his estate just needed money,
yeah.
so they agreed.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I watched the pilot episode, and within minutes, because I'm such a fan of the book, and this does happen to book fans when their favorite
Hmm.
books are put on the screen. Of course, they got to make it for the general audience. Well, they threw away a lot of the material that made the very first book, in this case, The Eye of the World, which is the book we are currently discussing, uh, um, which made it great. I mean, it and the way they introduced the characters was way off bat. I mean, as Raziel and I were discussing before the show started, we were talking about, there's sex scenes in the television series, and they were only alluded to barely in the book.
Exactly,
Like pillow friends. When they were talking about pillow friends in the books, that was his way of talking about sex. He never actually mentioned sex. Uh,
exactly.
uh,
It
uh, um,
kind of reminded me of remember the original Star Trek. Shatner, we know Captain Kirk went around and slept with pretty much every alien out there, but
yeah,
you never saw a sex scene. All you saw
yeah,
is him putting his boots back on.
yeah.
That was
Or
okay.
putting his shirt on, and that was it.
Exactly.
It
That was
alluded
that.
to it. It never actually
So
showed it, and the characters are presented as already been longtime lovers. The initial characters, and that wasn't so in the books. Just
yeah,
wasn't so. So there are major differences, and there's some subtle differences here and there, and some pretty spot on things in the series. If you're into that, hey, go watch it. We're not saying don't go watch it. We're saying
I'm saying it. Sorry.
if you want to go watch it, please do. But we both highly suggest you read the books instead, because it'll it'll take you to another world. It'll take you into the world the books are covering, and you don't want to leave. You
Yeah.
put the first book down, you'll want to pick the second one up. That's just that quickly.
And
Uh,
that's the
um,
beauty of it now. They're all available. You don't have to wait like we did. I'm
yeah,
actually lucky. I started reading it at book 9. So I had
Sword
9
of
books to
Dreams.
read. Yeah, I had
Yeah,
9 books to read, and then I had to wait for the others to come out. But some people who from the 1990 when the first 2 books came out, and they had to wait each time. So
I read them on Kindle the first time online. Well, no, I owned the books, but the first time I ever read the books online, I had a Kindle, and
mm,
they were available right away on Kindle, and I was like, oh, okay.
yeah, and it's a great
That way I could
series.
read it anywhere I go, and that was great.
Yeah,
But
and I actually
in
don't have my book, my first one, because we're going to talk about the Eye of the World. I don't have the original book with me because
you loaned it
the
out.
no, not really. I think I'm looking at YouTube and I don't think they're seeing us right now. Give me a quick second. I just
um, no, it says we're
oh, there we
live.
go. Okay, we're back. Yeah, no, my camera was frozen. So I just went and looked to check if there was any comments, and I couldn't. All I saw
Yeah,
was the bookmark, well, the thumbnail. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Mimo said, "I feel the actor for Matt is all wrong." Um,
he probably
yeah,
is.
yeah, I think so too. Um,
I'm being
I
negative. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
Oh,
We
that's my
only
sister. That's my sister right there. Hi,
we only see
sis.
you. Oh, okay. Well,
Yes, and that.
hi.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello.
He doesn't like to be on camera, I guess.
There you go. But for me, the introduction of the book and how it plays out is like in a sort of a prequel book that was later introduced called New Spring. We
Yep.
see, how the main character is born, you know, at the death of another, literally and figuratively, because of the one his mother dies giving birth to him on Dragon Mount. I said Bount, Dragon Mount, and at the
Yeah.
same time, a Aes Sedai dies foretelling his birth.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Well,
um,
she's the Armerlin seat.
oh no, it was the keeper of the Chronicles who
She was the keeper. Okay. Yeah, it's been a
yeah,
while
she was
since I read that one.
she was the keeper of the Chronicles to the then Emerald seat, who Moraine and Swan are both accepted.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, in the books, the Aes Sedai are sort of a think of them as super powered women. Uh, um, to
Well,
put it
they're
succinctly,
yeah, they're
they're mad.
wizards.
They're basically Stephen Strange, or
Yeah, kind
okay,
of.
yeah, yeah, and they they're trained from youth, through and they have stages, ranks. I guess they have accepted. They have novices accepted, and of course full sisterhood. Those are the three ranks. I
Yeah.
almost messed it up there. Yeah, novice accepted, and of course sisterhood, and it's it's a great series. It's one I
Yeah.
really, really, really enjoyed, and
Well, let's do a quick for those who maybe haven't read it. Um, this universe is basically dictated or directed by a, I guess,
cycle.
figurative. Well, a cycle. It's a wheel, that the wheel of time, and basically everything that is or everything that was will become again. So it keeps going in circle to infinity. So everybody is reborn. Everybody is, there's new iterations of people. So basically, the first book starts and it shows you the death of the dragon, who's Luce Theron Telemon, after he murdered his family, after he defeated the dark
Yeah,
one,
and
which is
something
the
called,
main villain.
which they'll discuss later in the books, called the War of the Shadow, is when this
Yep.
took place. Yeah,
So
centuries before the current books happened. Centuries,
if
I
not
think
millennia,
thousand
yeah,
years or something like that. Yeah, yeah,
it's pretty. It's a long run from one age to the other. So
hmm
basically, this guy dies, and when we pick up, his reborn form is now 20 years old, but they don't have memories of their past life. It just he's
yeah,
the new
yeah. Generally speaking,
iteration.
the people in this world don't have memories of their former lives. However, the
That's right.
dragon is he's reborn. There are certain what's called the chosen, or they just think of them as the evil guys. Okay, the
Mm.
evil people. All right, they are pretty much always the same, but the dragon himself is always reborn age after age after age to fight the dark one,
Yeah. Well,
Shai
the
Kahn.
chosen, the bad guys, the chosen. There's 13 of them, and the rest of the world calls them the Forsaken.
Yeah,
They were trapped with the
the dark
Dark
one.
One in a prison. An actual, it's a prison in some land, but it's
Child
corrupting,
Goal.
and now it's
Child
Shell
Goal.
Goal.
Yeah.
That's right. It's been a while, man. And basically, they are in that prison, but now the prison is weakening, so they're coming out.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
trapped in what's called the bore, I believe. It's where the
yep,
people of the previous age, the great age, where the chosen originally are from, pardon me,
yep.
they
We actually, yeah, I remember reading that part in a much later book, or maybe was it in part 3 or 4? I think it's in part 4, where they actually show how the boar
yeah,
was created, like
yeah.
when it happened and everything. It's
Uh,
it's a complicated series,
Yep.
really.
And we're introduced to our main characters, which is Randolph Thor, Egwin
Yep.
Elbert, Matt. Cawthun, and Perrin Ibarra, Moraine Sedai, and Lan Mandragoran.
Yep.
And we're also introduced to Nynaeve
I'm
Elmira.
trying to.
Elmira, I believe her name is Elmira. Nynaeve Elmira.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
remember Nynaeve T. Elmira, but that's when. Oh, no, no, I shouldn't have mentioned that. I'd be spoiling it for later books.
Yeah,
Uh, um, um,
but it's a
but
typical introduction.
yeah,
Although those character, it's a party. It's like our spring festival. They call it
the Beltane.
the Beltines Festival,
Hmm. They're all
and
preparing for this, and our characters are introduced. They've all been around their childhood friends, or at least and yeah, their childhood friends, and they're preparing for this big, village festival because the Two Rivers is where they're all. It's where this is book one takes place primarily in the
yeah.
Two Rivers, and it's
Well, it's
uh
where it starts.
yeah where it starts,
Yeah,
and
and
they're preparing for this festival, and we're introduced to the main characters, their families. We're introduced to the areas, talked about how in the Two Rivers men are all great hunters, and we're introduced to like concepts that will play much bigger roles later in the series, or some lesser roles too. Like we're introduced like to the women's circle, the wisdom, what the wisdom is, which is naive is the village wisdom, sort of like a village healer or a shaman.
yep,
She serves all, and a wind talker as well, as what they call her, because she can talk to the wind and predict the weather and things like that.
yep.
So we're introduced to all these concepts, in a it, and it sticks, as you can tell from me. And I'm not reading a book. I'm not looking at any book. This is just me remembering these details because I read the books once a year. Once a year, I reread all 14
I
books.
haven't read them in about maybe 5 years,
Oh,
but when I do, I I'm a I'm usually a quick reader, but when I read those, I'm going really, really slower than my usual pace because I want to remember. And there's stuff that even when I reread them, oh, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this part. Like when, I think Moraine asked something of Rand and he's like, I'd rather lose my left hand. Guess what happens? Like 10 books later.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's all, and everything was really well thought of. And one
Yep, and
thing, I don't know if this book, I don't have the first one. One thing that's amazing about this whole series, until Brandon Sanderson takes the series, because then they've cut that concept, is there's maybe we're not seeing it, but there's a lexicon at the end of the book.
oh
Every
yeah,
book,
yes,
there's a
yes, there is.
lexicon,
I'd forgotten about that. Yes,
and it
and
it tells you every word that he made up, every faction, every organization that
it,
he created. It's detailed
it
there.
summarizes what it's like. It says A Aes Sedai, and it'll tell you
Yeah,
what they are,
he
and
shows you the
Tarvalin is
pronunciation and
and it'll tell you about locations. It'll like Faldera is this city, on the coast, and
exactly and
you know, it,
important events and
yeah, it's it's fantastically written. He he had piles, when Brandon in one of his books, in a forward or in an afterword, I can't remember which, either in a forward or an afterword of what book 12, I think it is. Um, he talks about he had to pour over thousands and
oh
thousands
yeah.
of his note papers and notes and documents to
Hmm.
familiarize him with his himself with much of his plans for the ending of the books. And he had so much detail that he that Robert Jordan had so much detail he puts in his books. Like you'll find in his books, he'll describe what every main character, or even characters that will play almost no role whatsoever, the clothes they're wearing, the type of armor. Was it brass armor? About the fittings on the armor, how it fit together, how it
Yeah.
snapped together. He he talks about that, and he'll describe, so you get a clear picture Like it could be some random guard standing at a gate, you know,
Yep. And yet you'll be
and he'll
detailed.
describe it so you can literally envision this guard standing at the castle, you know,
Yeah.
and
It's
and you're
good and
like,
it's bad though, because
yeah,
my mom reads tons of books and everything. And at one point she told me, like, she's like, I skip over some of the description because it's sometimes it's just too much. And I tend to agree. At some point you're like, wow, okay, this is a really nice room, but I don't really need to know what type of aprons they have,
yeah.
like
Or I don't need to
stuff
know
like
that
that.
the chair is gilded with, with
Exactly.
jewels and silver and how its height and general dimension because he describes it.
Yeah.
He describes it, so you literally can know without a picture to make a picture in your head of what it looks like. And you're right. Sometimes I'll skip past that too. Um, like
Yeah.
there's times where I'm just when it'll describe what an Aes Sedai is wearing, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't care,
Yeah,
and
it's like, oh,
I'll
she's
skip
wearing
that
some
right.
variant of green and blue and but
Yeah, there and the Aes Sedai. Thanks for mentioning that. They all have, I want to say, not sex, but not sex, but sect, sexts. Uh, uh, um,
yeah,
Different branches, and they go by colors. There's the reds, and the colors are important. Okay, like white is, they are primarily uh, uh, um, knowledgeable and factual. The browns, who primarily only interest themselves in knowledge. That's it. That no more, no less. They've got their head always got their heads buried in a book. That's a
hmm
brown sister. The white sister, she is primarily all about intelligence, um, learning about current events, whereas browns are about past events. Reds are basically there to uh, um,
they're hunters,
they're
man
hunters,
hunters. Yep.
man hunters. Yeah, and generally speaking, they they're man haters. I'll be quite frank. He even says so in the books. They
Yeah,
hate men.
they're kind of a couple classmates I had back then.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just saying.
There's the blues, who are the schemers and the
Well, not
worldly wise.
schemers, but
The,
they're the
yeah,
spies.
the spies, the
Yeah,
schemers, they're the ambassadors, they're the court aides. Most of the
yep,
time, it'll be a blue. Then you have the greens, which are is called the battle aja, and of course, as it sounds, they are they're there to fight. That's what they do, is they fight battles, but not for men, not for countries. The distinction there is the Aes Sedai serves no one. They're supposed to serve all, but they serve no one. They serve their own interests in the books.
and
At
they can't lie,
they
but
can't lie.
but they do so all the time
Well, they
through
twist the truth.
innuendos and yeah, oh,
Yeah,
yeah, but they
they
twist
twist
it
the
pretty
truth.
bad.
They twist it. They can't
Yeah,
lie. If you ask them a direct question, they'll try to do an end round without actually answering the
exactly.
question. They'll twist it to something else.
And it's
White,
to a
brown.
fault where the Aes Sedai are supposed to be the most trusted people, but nobody trusts them
Yeah, nobody.
because of that.
Because they, for the last couple of 100 years or so, the Aes Sedai have pretty much just tried to centralize power
Yeah,
in the tower, so to speak. There's the yellow Aja. I almost got the yellow Aja, which
the
are
healers.
primarily healers. Yeah, they're
Yep.
that's that's the healers. And one of my favorite Ajas is the yellows. I like the yellows and greens. They're my favorite of the yellow, because most yellow and green sisters I always find to be more interesting than others in the books. So
Yeah. And then
that's
there's
just me.
the browns, which are the bookworms, and
Yep, yep.
so
It's great. It's great. So we're near. Ooh, we're nearing it. We said we'd only do this for about 30 minutes. We're nearing the end of this. We're nearing
maybe
the.
okay, maybe today we can derail because now we've just rambled about different topics. But if we focus just a little bit, in the first book, you're introduced to the main characters, which again is Rand Altor, and you have Perrin Abera and Matt Coton. And and those three are taverines. Taverines mean because the wheel, it's actually a not
Tavarin.
it's
It's
yeah, Taverin.
what? Yeah, Tavarin.
It's not a the wheel is a sewing wheel. Ah man, what's the word? It's not a mill. It's you know, those wheels that they
Yeah,
use to for
I
wool. And
don't know what it's
so
called.
yeah, me either. And but it's one of these old mills you see, you know, in old stories where they have straw on it,
Spinning
and
wheel.
then
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
spinning wheel exactly. And basically this wheel spins
Weaving
a
wheel. That's
pattern
it.
exactly, and that thing spins a thank you, Memo. And that thing spins a pattern, and the pattern is basically reality. It's the existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's the universe. But then Taveren, you said
Tavarin.
Taveren is. See, I read those words, but I don't
Yeah,
usually pronounce them. Taveren. Those people, those three guys, and
shape
there's only
pattern.
three because I know the show
Three.
had four, and that's
Yep.
bullshit.
Yeah.
So those three, basically, the pattern will uh,
Shape around
weave
them.
weave itself around them. So they're centerfold, and the Aes Sedai are looking for one Taveren that will be the next dragon, which is the reincarnation of the guy who killed all of his family before
Right.
and
And
then
he's the
created the
most powerful magic. Let's just
yeah.
call it magic. They call it Satan and Satan and
Man,
something
there's
else.
so many
But
concepts in this.
yeah, but
That's the thing.
we'll just call it for simplicity. We'll just call it magic. And the dragon is the most powerful magic user that ever
Yeah.
was or will be in existence.
And
And
then at
and
some point when they won against the shadow, they corrupted the male part of the magic.
mhm,
So now no man can use that power
without going
because
nuts.
they go insane. But then so then the Aes Sedai, they used to be male and female. Now it's only female. It's a purely female order, and their job is to, well, one of the Red Ajah's job is to make sure that the male don't hey, you have a porn bot, haha, there you go,
No, God.
block this, that's a porn bot. And then after that, so they're trying to, so every few years there every few years you have a false dragon, so a man that can start the channel and use the power, but then eventually he goes nuts. So the Red Ajah's job is to stop that guy. So when the story starts, they're in the Two Rivers, which is a small
Village.
village, and then Moraine and Lan come to that village. Basically, that village is attacked by Throllocs, which are, it's like the orcs and ogres of this world. They save the kids, and then they leave town with them, accompanied by the Wisdom, which is Naev,
And
and
Nynaeve.
Tom Marilyn,
Tom
who's
Maryland is one
a
of my favorite characters.
oh, he's awesome. The guy's
He's
a
a Gleeman.
spy, a bard, so basically, Gleeman in that universe are
Is a bard.
bards. They're
Hmm.
entertainers. They do pretty much anything.
But
This
they're
one
also assassins.
happens. Well, this one is, and I
Yeah,
don't
and
think that
Tom is an
all.
assassin. Yeah,
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 he's,
yeah.
but he's a good one, and he's a nice guy, and he's a very prominent character in this whole series.
Hmm.
And also, you're introduced to Payton Fane, who's a peddler, a salesman, basically. But he's you find out very early that he's a very bad man, and he will become a main villain throughout the series.
Yeah, he becomes he's such a villain. He's such an evil that even the evil guys hunt him
Yep, exactly.
because he plays no favor. He wants one thing and one thing only: to find and kill the main character. Okay, that's his goal.
Yep,
And anything to include the Dark Lord himself that gets in his way, he will kill it,
yep,
including the Dark Lord himself if he has to, because that's how
exactly,
much of an evil. That's what happens when evil meets evil. Is one has got to overcome the other, and that's what Pat Fane is. Of course, we're skipping a whole lot and spoiling it somewhat, but um, you'll have to read the books to see how this comes
exactly.
plays out. But
But, but
he's
as the
he's a great character. Not one of my
oh
favorites, but
yeah,
he is a great
he's a good
character.
one. He's a hero is only as good as his villain,
Yeah,
and he's a great villain.
yeah.
So they leave the two rivers, and then
Oh,
they make
it's
their
back.
way through. They Oh, you have a new one? Yeah, that's a new one. There you go. After that, after they leave for they leave the two rivers and they go through a couple different town, and then
And Childs.
they meet Min Farsha, will which she has a power of prophecy, but she doesn't know how it works. So basically, she's able to see pictures around you, and those pictures are possible
Things.
events or possible results, or but she's not that great at
Well,
interpreting them.
her ability is just as you described, but if she understands what she sees, then it will come. They're possible futures, except if she understands what they mean. If they understand, she
Yeah,
understands what the images means, it will come true.
exactly.
Absolutely. There's no way around it. It won't change. It's locked into the cycle or locked into the wheel, and it will happen.
Yep.
So, but
So
if she doesn't understand it, then
it's
anything could
still
happen.
exactly, it's still up in the air. So they meet her and she joins them eventually, because she becomes a very important character too.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they get to the city, the dead city of
Shadow,
Shadar
Shadow
Lagat,
Loga. Yeah.
which I love this place. It's basically this town was visited by a guy called Mordet, and that's many, many years, maybe centuries ago. And then he counseled the king against in a war against the shadow. But eventually the city turned on itself and every citizen started hating and fearing each other. They all killed each other, or they it's unexplained, but everybody disappeared. And the only thing that's left in this town is a shadow of Mordet and a mist. And that mist, if it touches you, you die. But the heroes have to camp there during the day, and they by a series of event, they actually the three Tavaran actually meet Mordet, and he's trying to do them a favor. He's trying to ask a favor of them, which they actually don't do it, except Matt steals a dagger. And anything from this city, if you take
Is
it,
touched by evil, touched by the evil.
you're
Yeah.
exactly, but it's not the evil of the dark one, it's
No.
another evil. So
Because
it's and then
even the enemies, the Trollocs and whatnot. Think of Trollocs as, like you said, orcs or something.
yeah,
They're huge. Think of them as bodybuilders with the heads of animals. That's literally
yeah, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, it's that's a good,
hairy bodybuilders with animal heads. Okay,
yeah,
that's the perfect way to describe them. Um, and even they won't go into Shatter Loga because it
they're
frightens
afraid.
them. They have
Yeah,
to be driven and absolutely driven into to going in there because they absolutely fear it. And some people will confuse uh, uh, um, the mist of more death with Machin Sheen, which is in the ways that'll come up later in the books. But
yeah, but that's
they're two
different.
different entities, but they have the same sort of feel, same way about doing things. So some people have theorized that they're the same thing, but they're
Yeah,
not. They're totally two different things. Uh, um, the Black
but
Wind is different.
yeah, well, the black wind actually devours you, like
Yeah,
it just rips you to shreds, while the mist just it touches you, you die.
yeah,
So and Matt steal that daggers, and that's gonna define his character for the next few books,
yep,
because he's gonna be bound, and that daggers makes him more paranoid and sick and angry, and so eventually the goal eventually is to get rid of the influence of that dagger from Matt, because eventually he does lose the dagger and that causes him to
yep. And that
get
same
extremely
dagger
sick.
influences the main character too, because at one point it's used to cut him,
Yep.
and Rand has to live with a wound, this festering wound that can't be cured because
Yeah,
it's
for like
more death.
7 books. Yeah,
yeah. It can't be cured, and that's a part of Mordeth. That mist inside that wound there, just festering, that evil, and he has to live with it. It's
I
always
forgot
there. He's
about
always
that.
aware of it. He's always aware
Yeah,
of it. Always there. Even Min. No, I don't want to spoil it, but when all the interest, when they see it, especially Naive or however you want to say her name. She's
I
tried to
call her
cure it many
Naive.
times. Yeah, Naive tries to cure it many times. She just can't, and it just
No,
frustrates her. And Naive is probably my top favorite character of the books.
mine is Lan. And
Subsequently, the two characters get married.
exactly, but the Lan is
He's
he's
like a
basically
samurai.
yeah, kind of
Yeah, that's how they play off the men of his region. Is think of them as a cross between samurai and say something of a more Middle Eastern, way because it's
yeah,
sort of a
like
blend
night.
of the Middle East and East Asia influences
Yeah,
in their ideologies and dress and behaviors.
they're
So
warriors, born bred,
yeah,
kind of like Sparta.
yeah, yeah. They're kind of like
Spartans,
Spartans. Yeah, yeah,
samurai and Spartans. That's a good mix.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the bordermen, as they're called, the bordermen is what, and he's from Seven Towers. It anyway.
yeah,
He's Lan is what's called the Uncrowned King or Dai Shan. You'll see him referred to
yeah.
in the
That's
books
right.
as Dai Shan, the Uncrowned Kings, because he is the last born of Malkir, the last born noble of Malkir, before it fell, the Seven Towers of Malkir, and you'll find that later on in the books. I think it's like
Yep.
book 5 or 6 or something like that, where he tells when we find out about it. But he's known as the Uncrowned King, and one of the best lines in the books, and it's not in book 1. And I'm jumping ahead. Is when
Yeah.
Nynaeve, teleports him, and there's all kinds of there's teleportation magic. There's all kinds of magic. If you can think of a
Oh,
magic they use in
it
the books,
gets crazy.
but she at one point she teleports her Lan out to the borderlands instead of where he wanted to go, and says, "Well, you're gonna have to ride that way to get there. I brought you
Yep.
this far." And then what she does, she goes all throughout the borderlands saying, "My husband rides for Tarwain's Gap. Will he ride along?"
Yeah.
I won't quote the whole thing. It's one of the best lines in the books, where she shames the bordermen in the act. She shames their honor, in order to get them to ride with him, and
Yeah.
it's
And
great.
no, she did the right thing. But
She did
that's
the right
like
thing.
book 10, man.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna lose a couple people.
It's one of
That's
my
cool.
favorite parts of the books. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
and
there's so many good parts.
oh, the
But
books are
see,
fantastic.
my favorite is actually Shadar Lagat when they get there. So
Oh
I
yeah,
yeah, that's and then they leave and then they go to White Bridge and then they
Tamlin.
get
Go to Whitebridge to
yeah,
Tamlin.
but then they at some point they get separated and
After
Tom
Shadar Logoth, they get
yeah,
separated. Yep.
Tom travels with Matt
Rand.
and Rand for a while, and then Egwene and Perrin travel for a while, and then after that you have Nynaeve and Lan and Moiraine who are looking for the kids,
Well,
and
Nineveh, and again, one of the reasons I love Nineveh, she tracks
oh yeah,
Lan, and Lan is like, "You didn't
how
track me," and she was like, "Oh yes, I did. You're so
yeah,
easy to track." And she
because Lan is the accomplished warrior protector, he's basically everything a 6-year-old wants to be when he grows up, a big strong man that's able to do everything like in the movies.
Yeah, and
That's Lan.
he's a survivalist, he's a warrior, he's all these
Yeah,
things, and and nothing can track him except for Nene. Nene did
yeah,
it across hundreds of
she did.
leagues. She tracked him. He was like, "You tracked me." She goes, "Oh yeah, you're like a boar through the forest. I could track you anywhere." And he
Yeah,
was just like in awe. He
he
just
was
stopped
really
at her.
well. That's kind of when they fell in love.
Yeah,
That he was impressed, and that guy doesn't impress all at all.
yeah.
So So you
Never,
have so much character growth in those books. So
yeah, and the point and moral of this story is never underestimate the two rivers, men or women, because
yep,
they're the two rivers are, it comes to find out, you don't find out in this book, but they talk a little bit about it, like they have archery contests, and every boy, and girl, from a
yep.
small age are taught to hunt.
There's two things in the two rivers, that their bows are the best, and the archers from two rivers are the best,
Yeah,
and tobacco.
and tobacco. Yep.
The leaves are the best leaves to put in a pipe is from the two rivers.
Yep. And I wish I had some two rivers tobacco for mine.
Yep. I don't smoke anymore, but I would
Well,
if somebody said this is from the two river, I'm starting again.
I enjoy a good pipe. I'm
Ah,
sitting
there you
there.
go.
I'll be reading a part about when Tom lights up his pipe, and I'll be
And
like,
then I used to smoke, and every time he would light up, I would light up a cigarette. I'm like, God damn it, that
that's how much
tobacco
the book.
sounds so good. I
Yes,
remember
yes,
that.
yes. But
Ugh,
so through book one, you're also introduced to some of the evils that they encounter. Like the Shadow
yeah,
has lots of like Trollocs. They have these
y-
flying Drakkar, I think they're called.
yeah,
These
and then
flying, like
Midral.
vampire-like creatures. They have the eyeless ones, which are basically 7 foot tall, pale skinned men with no eyes, but their gaze, freezes men at the same
Yep.
time, and they're also happen to, you know, Robert Jordan downplayed it, but they also happen to enjoy raping women. It's in
Yeah,
the books.
that's
It's in the
it's
books. It's
oh
there.
yeah, it's but then again, it's just alluded to.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
alluded
glad
to.
for that, because I
Uh,
don't enjoy a rape scene. That's
yeah,
not
no,
something I
it's
want
just
to read
alluded
about.
to. You'll, at one point, you'll say that I found this woman, and the room went dark, and she
Yeah,
screamed. That's all you know. And that's how
yeah, and
far he
that's
goes into it. You
exactly.
know.
I'm glad he did that. Well,
Yep.
eventually everybody gets reunited in Camlin, and then they meet an Ogier, which basically Ogier are 8-10 foot um,
Yeah, 8 foot
hum-
tall.
humanoid, and everybody's
They're
afraid of them, but they're peaceful tree huggers.
Yeah. Think of them as forest elves, only gigantic.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, they're forest elves. They're Robert Jordan's idea of what a wood elf or something would be. Only they're all like whenever Loyal laughs, it's like it said the room rumbles whenever he laughs because he's so
Exactly. Yeah.
loud, and
And that's he's going to be another important character.
they've already
Loyal
introduced him
is
and in the television series, and I'm just
exactly. See, don't mention the series, man. You're gonna watch the whole thing eventually. I know you will. You're gonna go there and try to watch it, and you're gonna be more disappointed than you are right now. I'm telling you. Don't don't
oh
don't don't watch it.
uh
But again, I respect anybody who does.
yes, if you want to go watch it, we're not going to stop. We're not going to tell you don't go watch it. Go watch it, enjoy if you want, but we'd rather you read the books.
Yeah, exactly.
But we'd much rather you read the books. So
So when they're in Camlin, they meet Loyal, and then they learn about Loghain Ablar, who's a false dragon that's just been captured by the Aes Sedai. And while Rand is watching that parade, he falls into behind a wall of the castle of, and then he
Camlin,
meets his yeah of Camlin, and then he meets Elaine, who's the heir
princess.
to the throne.
Yeah, the daughter heir, as they call her. She's a
Yeah,
princess, but they call her the daughter heir, and said to be one of the most beautiful women in all of the regions. Uh, um,
yeah. After Barrelin.
after Berlin,
Yeah, yeah.
Berlin is of Maine, the
That's
first
how
of
you
Maine.
pronounce it, Barrelin. I
Yeah,
go.
Berlin is the first of Maine, and yeah, but she doesn't
Yeah.
get introduced until
No.
later as
She's
well.
like book after the fall of the stone, so book 4.
Yeah, yeah,
So
she's there at the stone when it falls.
yeah.
Yeah, she's there
So
because
then
she's busy trying to get busy with the dragon, to win favor for
uh,
her country.
exactly, and
Now,
he pushes
speaking of
away.
countries, thing people need to understand is is in this world, it's primarily city states, not countries
Hmm.
in and of themselves. Is
Yeah,
primarily city states. Yes,
there's
there are
regions, but
like
they're
yeah, like Anders is where Camlin is, and that's sort of a country. That's a country, but there's a lot of other places that are just like Maine, Tyr. There's cities, Faldera. They're
yeah.
city states, is
It's
what
not a
they are.
big land. Like
Yeah,
it's not. You don't go around the world because really the fate of the world depends on this little region. It's not a massive land. Actually, every book you have this map. Let me just focus my camera properly. There you go. So every book you have this map. So this is, I don't know, the size of Quebec, maybe. But let's say Texas. It's
hmm,
maybe a little bigger than Texas.
yeah,
And but there's a whole oh geez, thanks Memo. What the Bob Saget died?
yeah. Thanks, man. Really,
That's a monkey wrench. Okay.
but the map and you know later in the books you'll also be introduced to one of my favorite countries, which is the Shanchan. The Shanchan are think of them, well, they're described, there's sort of like samurai, sort of like a blend between Japanese and I don't know what society, but like all their uniforms are like insect like, they're described as insect like, just their uniforms, not the people
Yeah.
themselves. And they're
But
all
that's in
bald.
book 2. They're at the end of book 2 or 3. No, book 2. The Ascension, the first invasion is in book 2.
Yeah, yeah, and they're um, and one of the best stories there, in one of my second favorite characters, of course, is Matt Cawthon, and his antics his antics, the way he speaks, the way he does things, is
Yeah.
is probably, he's a gambler, he's a warrior, although he doesn't want to be a warrior, and he is probably one of the most brilliant generals to ever exist
Well, yeah,
because
but he's not born this way. Don't spoil it. That's book
because
4. That's book 4. Don't
okay,
spoil it.
all I'm saying is that Matt is one of my favorite characters. Even
Yeah,
even in
he's
the first
awesome.
book where we're talking now, he's he's a prankster, he's a shyster, and I
Yeah,
love him to death. Part of me wants to identify with him so badly, and that's why I
yeah.
love him so much, because he's a great, very, they're all very well written characters, but
Oh
the
yeah.
way he speaks and does things, he's simple. He wants things simple, and I like that.
Well,
He just
everything he tries to do for the first couple of time is, like in the second book, his only goal first is just to go back home and forget the whole thing.
yeah.
But then every decision he makes takes him closer to a destiny he doesn't want. So
Yeah, it takes him further away from where he wants to be
yeah,
and closer to what he needs to be. And
exactly.
eventually he learns to accept it. Eventually he learns to accept it.
Eh,
Uh,
I don't think if he accepts it, he's like, okay, we're gonna do this. Then after that, I'm going taking a break. But then
yeah,
he never gets his break. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
story wise, after they get to Camlin and then they meet all those new characters, like Elaine and her two brothers, Gawain and Galad, and they even meet the queen of that country, and
Morgazy.
yeah, Queen Morgazy, and eventually, also you find out that Perrin, one of the boys from the Two River, can speak with wolves because he learned how to do it with another character that he's one of my favorite, Elias Machra,
Yes.
because this guy he's basically what you would call a hermit. He lives in the woods, has some interaction with some
People.
people, but mainly and it's just something that happens.
Think of him
There's
as a woodsman. Think of him as a
Yeah,
woodsman.
exactly. And
Think of him
that's
as a
just
woodsman.
an ability that he and Perrin have, and other people have throughout the years. They're just able to speak with wolves, and it's takes a while for Perrin to accept it, but not too long. And it's a really cool twist to that character, and it's a really a
One of
very it's going to lead him through a very interesting story.
Yep,
So
and it isn't until book 9 or 10, I think 10, when he fully just accepts that he is what he is, you
yep,
know, and it introduces it's a subtle nod to werewolfism without being a werewolf.
yeah, exactly,
It's
because I'm
so cool
so
because
sick of the whole vampires and werewolves.
yeah,
And
and the way he goes about this is like, you know, the wolves. How it's described is there was a time before memory where wolves and men all walked together and hunted together. This is how Robert Jordan presents it,
yeah,
and they each shared and talked to each other in the wolf dream. And Tel Riyadh is
exactly.
what the humans call Tel and Riyadh is what the wolves call the wolf dream. Only it was the wolf dream before men named it, Tel and Riyadh.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But
and
we eventually learn a lot more about the dream world. So, but
yeah,
that's
and
cool.
and it's so great how he present like some of the concepts like magic and whatnot, and it is not quite how it's popularized. Been like werewolf is in this case. Perrin, he doesn't transform into a wolf at all. At no point ever. Okay, he's got some yellow eyes, but that's it. That's it. There's no big large fangs. He doesn't turn
No, no,
hairy
no.
or anything like that.
Well, it doesn't give him anything other than the speech and
Yeah,
the eyes. So
the
he
eyes,
doesn't.
and sometimes he'll like
You
growl
know,
at something, when he's upset. But
yeah.
that's a
He,
guttural growl
he
like a
doesn't
person would make.
become bigger or stronger when the full moon is out and shit like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
no,
yeah. So it's a great way to present this without actually, going into this popularized form of, werewolves or whatever. It's a great way to do it. And to my knowledge, there is no vampirism in the books.
no, there isn't.
It doesn't exist in this world.
Well, there's parasites like the fox and snakes, but we're getting
Yeah,
way too ahead of
yeah, yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
So basically, while Rand is in Camlin, and meets all these people, Egwin and Perrin goes on an adventure where they get captured by
But
basically by the KKK, really, which they are
the
the
white
Children of
cloaks.
the Light. Yeah, the White Cloak, Children of the Light, and they make their escape. And while they're escaping, Perrin's actually kills one of them.
But
And
you're forgetting where they meet the children of the leaf. Uh, the
oh yeah,
Tinkers, as
yeah,
they're called. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
gypsies.
The gypsies, and
Yeah,
they
the
exist in this
Tuatan.
world, and they're called the children of the leaf, and or the way of the leaf is what they follow, and they're very peaceable. They wouldn't fight. They're for any reason whatsoever. They don't fight. They're very peaceable. They're people, in this world seem to think they're all thieves, and and they call them tinkers and whatnot, and it's meant to be a slur. So and but they're very peaceable, very fun loving.
Yep,
Every night is a party to them, and that's so
it's a fun
Perrin
faction. Well, it's a
and
nice faction.
yeah, and Egwin spend a couple of nights with them. So
Well,
and
that's
then the
where we
White Cloaks
meet.
come.
That's when we meet Aram.
Yep, a ram. Yeah,
Yep.
Aram, Ram. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's not a character I really enjoyed, but I liked the progression of his
Yeah.
story. Yeah,
Exactly. So we'll get later.
yeah.
So then after they meet the Tuatan, then they get captured by the Children of the Light. Eventually, Moraine, Naive, and Lan help them escape, and through that in that escape, that one of the Children of the Light dies, and then Perrin is blamed for the next 12, 14 books about that. And then eventually they also get to Camlin. They meet up with their friends, and then with the help of Loyal, they go through the Ways, which the Ways is, as far as I can tell, it's kind of a parallel, no, not a parallel world. It's you open a door and there's a
It's a
tunnel. It's a wormhole. it
Yeah,
it
it's a
takes you
wormhole.
from,
Exactly what I was going to
yeah,
say. It's a wormhole. It takes you between
from
2 points
except you have to navigate those things. And the origin of those is that it was actually a beautiful place, but eventually a dark black wind called
Machine.
Mashinshin.
Yeah,
Um,
Machine.
we have different pronunciation, people, because we don't. I'm from a French ascendant, so there's some pronunciation that I'm like, yeah, you just read it and then you think you're okay, and then it
And
just sounds like that in your head.
speaking of pronunciations, believe it or not, lots of people will pronounce things like I say I Sedai. Some people will say a Sedai.
Yeah,
Some
Ace said
people, it's
there's
uh
that's why there's the lexicon, how to
yes,
pronounce stuff, and
yes,
even then we get confused. So
yeah, yeah. Because some of those, and like you'll see words in there that are called the old tongue, and there's no real translation for that, and
exactly. So, but
and
eventually they travel the ways and they encounter that black wind, but they're able to escape, and then they get to the borderlands and they meet uh, a bunch of people who all want land to, you know, are we raising the banner? Are we, so then that's when you found out that land is some type of royalty.
the Uncrowned
And
King.
exactly. So then, but then he's like, no, 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 we're not here for that. And then they go to the eye of the world. Basically, the whole quest is to go to the eye of the world because there's something there that can um, help Moraine understand, what's going on, and they need guidance from a man who's called the Green Man, who's
I think the
he's not
Swamp Thing.
really explained. Yeah,
He's the Swamp Thing. He's the
yeah,
Swamp Thing.
basically. And so they go there, and then through series of events they end up on a battlefield, and there's two of the dark, the Forsaken, Balsamon, and
And
who's the other one?
Ishmael,
Oh, actually it's Agenor and Beltamel.
Beltamel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what, because I don't have my book, I have the wiki up.
Yep, yep, yep.
So Aginor and Baltamel, who are two of the Forsakens, um, they fight and then they kill the Green Man. They eventually die. Sorry. So eventually they're beaten and they're killed. Uh, and then you find out that Rand is actually able to channel, to use that magic we've described earlier, and that he's
The Dragon Reborn.
the dragon reborn. And that's something he doesn't accept until maybe book 9, like fully accept it, and that's later because there's so much different thing happening in this story. Like eventually you get so sidetracked in kind of side quests, there's all these
Yeah.
characters, and but that's basically the first book is the journey of 3, 4, 5 kids through the land, their first time out of the two rivers, and you find out that Rand is the next prophesied savior. But then he has to save the world. He might have to destroy it.
And everybody fears him, or they either
Yeah,
fear him or they want to serve him. Um,
exactly.
and as it develops, it goes both ways.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. As the stories progress in the books, subsequent books, it goes either way, and that it's great. And eventually we meet the people of the dragon. I won't get more into them. One of my favorite societies, I should call them, in the books. Uh, uh, um, in the book series, the Aiel,
yeah,
uh, or the Children of the Dragon, as they're called,
yeah.
and in the
That's
threefold land, and blah 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 blah. I won't get into that, because there's this whole thing in book 2 or 3 how he goes to the threefold land, and it's a great story, how he arrives there. But
so.
that's basically book 1 in a nutshell.
Yeah, and just I'm something interesting on the wiki. They have a segment where it's plot plot developments by character. So
Hmm.
quickly, what we've learned in this book is that Ran Altor begins the channel while fleeing the Dark One, but remains unaware of his talent prior to the confrontation with the Forsaken. Matt takes a cursed dagger from Shadar Lagat, which infects him with hatred and paranoia. Moraine tries to heal him, but she's unable to completely break his link to the dagger. Perrin meets Elias Mishara and learns that he's a wolf brother. Egwene Alvel learned that she has the ability to channel and begins learning how to use it so that she can become an Aes Sedai. And Nineveh Valmera learns from Moraine that she also has the ability to channel.
And
However, she's stubbornly refused to admit it, and even to herself at the time. So she has a blockage. She can only use her power when she's pissed off. And trust me, people, she gets pissed off a lot.
one of the by the grace of the light that I love so much about her character is the hair tugging. She tugs on her
Yeah,
braid,
tug, tug, tug all the time.
tugs on her braid. All she'll grab her braid. Now in the series, girls when they reach a certain age will get finally earn the right to braid their hair, which is their sort of passage into womanhood.
Yeah,
So when in the Two Rivers, whenever you see women with braids in their hair, they've reached womanhood. That doesn't
yep,
necessarily mean anything else other than that. They're finally acknowledged as adult women. Uh, um, doesn't really mean anything other than that. And she's constantly tugging on. She,
she's
and
a
another,
woman.
she's one of the great concepts that goes through every book is how astonished other characters will be at Nani's uh, stubbornness, or
Yep.
the fact that she calls somebody else. They'll be like staring whenever they'll just gawp at her whenever she talks about someone being stubborn, and they'll just gawp at her like,
Oh yeah, because she
are
commands respect, and you're gonna fall into submission before her.
yeah, I mean,
She's
she's one of these people, and they'll
yeah,
go up at her. They're like, "Really? You're talking about somebody else being stubborn?
yeah,
You?"
exactly. It's fun. So that's basically a quick recap of the main characters and the story of the Wheel of Time. So this is our first time. So maybe people you watched this and you understood nothing. But thank you for being here.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And so I guess really what we hope to gain from this is one is people will watch this and want to read the books themselves or watch
Yep.
this series regretfully so
Yeah. Read the
or watch the
books.
series. And it's a great book series by an author who understood the importance of driving characters. He
Yep.
understood the importance of fleshing out a character so that they could be standing right beside you as you read the books. It's great. Um,
I'm so sad he passed before
yeah,
finishing it.
yeah, yeah,
It's how it's lame. It's your greatest accomplishment, and you don't get to finish it because of a disease. But it was
yeah,
brilliantly, for people, if ever you read the book, don't um, don't expect a change in pacing or story or style when Brandon takes over at book 12.
yeah. You
it,
won't notice it.
it's completely seamless.
Yeah,
It's
you won't notice
com-
it. You
yeah,
you know, he tells you in the forward that, one of his directives was to write the book like Mr.
yeah,
Jordan did.
and
And like I said at one point early in the program, you know, he had to delve and read through, thousands of pages and notes and
yeah,
material and content to write, finish
yeah.
these books, and it's
But the,
amazing.
the ending, throughout all of these notes, he had the full story of
Mhm.
the end.
Yeah,
Robert had it. He
had
just
it.
had to piecemeal it together.
Yep.
So, and I think he did a great job.
Yep. So, I guess that takes us to the next book. Want to tell everybody about what's coming up next?
Book two is basically Nayev and Egwin are introduced to Tarvalon, where they train Aes Sedai. Rand goes with a bunch of people across the land to retrieve the dagger. Oh, we forgot that the dagger was stolen by Paden Fane,
Oh
and
yes.
that's what drives the story in the second book. They're trying to get that dagger so that this dagger can get back to Tarvalon, so that Matt can get cured
Hmm.
permanently.
And that'll
So,
be in the next part two of this series, because it will be a series. We'll be discussing all 14
yep.
books. So once again, how about you tell everybody who you are, where they can find you?
My name is Razyel Kayne, and you can find me on YouTube where I do toy reviews, toy hacks reviews, and voice actor spotlight. I'm on Facebook mainly just to publicize my stuff, and Instagram for the same reasons. And,
And go
and
ahead.
how about you? Where can we
And
find you?
I'm Ninja Bill. You can of course find me here on Ninja Bill Reviews. I primarily am on Facebook as Shinobi Birru on Facebook. I I don't use Instagram or really any other social media. I have a T Formers account, and I keep forgetting that that it's there. I have
Thanks, Memo.
Discord. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, Memo just got. He's been there the whole time. Actually, Memo, let me ask you this one question: did you read those books? I don't remember. I know we talked about it, but I don't know if you had read the books. So if you did, I hope we didn't, ruin any of your childhood memories. But if you did not, maybe now you should read the book.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so you can find me primarily on those, and I hope you guys will come back for the next chapter, book two, and that
Yeah.
should probably be next week. I think we can do one of these a week.
Oh, no, no,
One,
I can't. No,
okay,
when
how
we talked, I said
biweekly?
once a. Actually, to me, it's probably gonna be a monthly. So
Oh, okay. Well, hey,
we have 15 months to go. So an ongoing series.
there you go. He says that he's read most of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Awesome, awesome.
You have to
So,
finish this, man. They're all out. Trade paperback. It's you can get like how much is it? There's no retail because oh no, yeah, $7.99 US. Not bad.
yeah, yeah. I got most of my books at Barnes and Noble of all places, so little
Yeah.
plug there. Anyway, that'll be it for us. I hope you join us again on the next one. Apparently next month. Well, we'll let everybody know. Don't worry, don't
Yeah.
worry. We'll let everybody.
Sorry.
We'll keep you informed. Thank you, Raziel, for this was one of those spur of the moment things. Once again,
Yep.
as he said, I was talking about the series coming up, and he was like, "Nope, ain't gonna do it. Not gonna do it, son." And
And
I was
I'm
like,
standing
"Okay."
by my guns.
And this is how we arrived at doing this, and I think I think I quite enjoyed it. And so
Me too.
everyone who stayed with us in the chat, thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoys this who watches this later. Hit that like, click that subscribe. Make sure you go to Razyel Kayne's channel, click the like on his videos, subscribe to his channel, and pardon me, and above everything else, be good to each other and Happy New Year as my first video of this year, sort of.
Yeah. And remember, nothing in life gives you the right to be an asshole. Take care.